Anowon, a figure of both legend and infamy, was born into the powerful vampire family of House Get in the dark city of Malakir on the perilous plain of Zendikar. The world into which he emerged was one of treacherous landscapes, where ancient magic and hidden knowledge lay buried beneath layers of rock, ruin, and myth. To understand Anowon is to delve into the depths of Zendikar's history, to walk the twisted paths of a mind obsessed with the arcane, and to uncover the grim legacy of a vampire who has left a mark on his world. From his earliest days, Anowon was marked by an insatiable curiosity, a hunger not merely for blood, but for knowledge that was forbidden, dangerous, and ultimately transformative. He was the first son of the House Get, destined to inherit not only the title, but the vast library and the arcane secrets it held. His mentor and father figure, Blood Chief Tenihas, was both a source of guidance and a symbol of restraint, representing the traditions and taboos that governed vampire society in Malakir. Under Tenihas's tutelage, Anowon's mind sharpened, his understanding of Zendikar's ancient history deepened, and yet a rift began to form between the two. It was in the shadowed corners of Tenihas's library that Anowon first encountered the text that would set him on his dark path. These were no ordinary tomes. They were relics from a forgotten age, hinting at a time when vampires themselves were subjugated by famished gods. The idea that his kind had once been slaves to greater beings was anathema to everything Tenihas and his kindred believed. Anowon's fascination with these forbidden histories grew, and so did his determination to unearth the truths they concealed, no matter the cost. The tension between mentor and pupil reached its inevitable climax one fateful night. Tenihas was found brutally murdered in his chamber, his retinue slaughtered, and his treasures plundered. The only witness whose testimony would be etched into the annals of Malakir's lore claimed that Anowon had committed the deed in a fit of rage before disappearing into the night. The legend of this act of patricide would grow in the telling, casting Anowon as both a villain and a tragic figure, a being who had severed all ties to his past in pursuit of a dark and solitary future. For many years, Anowon wandered Zendikar, his name whispered in both fear and awe. He honed his skills as a mage and a warrior, becoming a mercenary of sorts, selling his services to the highest bidder, while always keeping his true objectives concealed. His loyalty was never to any cause or leader, but to his own relentless quest for knowledge and power. It was during this period that Anowon pledged his allegiance, however briefly, to the Bala Ged Expeditionary House. Here he immersed himself in the study of ancient languages and runes, accumulating relics and arcane scrolls that would later prove invaluable. Among the many artifacts Anowon encountered during his expeditions, one stood out, a powerful scroll known as the Dragon's Fire. The circumstances of its acquisition are lost to history, but its impact on Anowon was immediate. He renounced his ties and vanished, taking the scroll with him and leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. His disappearance marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one defined by deception, betrayal, and an ever-deepening descent into darkness. Some years later, a mysterious young man calling himself Kajahar arrived at the lighthouse in Seagate, a hub of scholarship and magical research on Zendikar. The scholars there were captivated by Kajahar's knowledge of ancient lore and his impressive collection of relics. They welcomed him into their fold, unaware that they were dealing with the infamous Anowon in disguise. For a time, Anowon seemed to find solace in his new identity. He traveled with merfolk expeditions, explored the vast lighthouse library, and made significant connections between the Eye of Ugin, a legendary artifact, and the secret history of the vampires. But even in this period of relative peace, Anowon could not escape the shadows of his past. The murder of a young Core woman, a crime for which Anowon was blamed, led to the exposure of his true identity. The revelation that the respected scholar Kajahar was in fact a vampire sparked outrage among the townsfolk of Seagate. Anowon was beaten nearly to death and thrown over the seawall into the treacherous waters of the Halimar. How he survived this ordeal remains a mystery, but it was a turning point in his life, a moment when whatever remnants of humanity he might have clung to were irrevocably shattered. After his near-death experience, Anowon's methods grew even more ruthless. No longer did he attempt to conceal his nature or his intentions. He gathered a band of followers, mercenaries and treasure seekers, and from his base camp in the mountains of Akum, he launched a relentless search for the Eye of Ugin. To adventurers and scholars, he presented himself as a ruin sage, an expert in ancient civilizations and lost relics. But behind this facade, Anowon was a predator, using those who came to him for knowledge as tools in his quest for power. Those who crossed him or who possessed something he needed were often left dead, their bodies discarded as mere obstacles in his path. It was during this period of renewed fervor that Anowon crossed paths with some of the most powerful figures in Zendikar's history. Chandra Nalar, a fiery young planeswalker, sought his guidance in finding the Eye of Ugin. Initially, Anowon was reluctant, but upon discovering that Chandra possessed a map to the Eye, he agreed to accompany her. Yet true to his nature, Anowon soon attempted to betray her, only to be thwarted by the arrival of another planeswalker, Sarkhan Vol. Knocked unconscious and left for dead, Anowon awoke later, his mind unhinged, but still driven by his singular purpose. His journey eventually led him back to the Eye of Ugin, where he was enslaved by the Eldrazi, ancient beings of unimaginable power that had been unleashed upon Zendikar. For 3 months, Anowon served these monstrous entities, a fate he had long sought to avoid. His release came at the hands of Sorin Markov, another vampire and planeswalker, and Nisa Revan, an elf with a deep connection to Zendikar's natural world. Together they sought to confront the Eldrazi, and Anowon used the opportunity to further his understanding of Zendikar's ancient history. After the Eldrazi were finally defeated, Anowon's fortunes began to wane. His reputation, already tarnished, deteriorated further as adventurers and scholars accused him of stealing credit for their discoveries and appropriating the treasures they had uncovered. The rise of the ancient core skyclaves, floating ruins from a bygone era, offered Anowon a chance to regain his lost prestige. He threw himself into the study of these enigmatic structures, hoping to uncover secrets that would restore his power and reputation. In the twilight of his career, Anowon found himself in the company of 3 adventurers with whom he shared a common goal: to explore the Ondu Skyclave and eliminate the Hydra Grakmor. Whether this new alliance will mark a redemption of sorts for the Ruin Sage, or merely another chapter in his long history of betrayal and bloodshed, remains to be seen. What is certain, however, is that Anowon's legacy is one of relentless pursuit, of knowledge, of power, and of a place in the annals of Zendikar's history, no matter the cost to himself or to those who cross his path.